All right, we're live.
We are live. Okay, so back with some time off because of the start of summer. And in the meantime, we have gotten your emails, we have gotten your letters, and they all say routinely the same thing. We are so bored of these atheists. These atheists are so dull. I can't even believe it. Can't you find somebody who's got something else to talk about? So I sent little John Buck and I said, go find us a polytheist, John. And he put on his little Gaelic cap and he went wandering around and he found us a real live breathing internet Twitter polytheist. And how are we introducing you? Cingeto of Belgae? Is that right?
Cingeto of Belgae or Belgae.
Cingeto of Belgae. And here he is live, Cingeto of Belgae. You want to introduce yourself? Tell everyone who you are and what you do.
Okay.
They're going crazy out there.
Oh yeah, I can hear them. All those people.
A polytheist. They're going crazy.
Sounds like Twitter. Okay, I'm Cingeto of Belgae, just the name I ended up with. It's given me by Ocean.
Yeah, he said I was gonna say that. He said that he helped you pick it out.
Yeah, or he's the one who picked it out. But I'm a Gaulish polytheist, and there you go. There's my introduction.
So a Gaulish polytheist. Now, already you made a distinction between a Gaulish and a Gaelic. There's a distinction.
There's a distinction.
Okay, so have you always been a polytheist? Let's start with that. Is that
since
something
inception?
What do you mean? So were you raised in this, or
no.
Was it something? Okay,
I chose it after. Let's see. I chose it on the 31st of October last year. Yeah, that was when it was.
Oh, okay, last year. So how'd that come about? What made you start getting interested in it?
Huh?
What started you getting interested in polytheism? Like what?
It has to do with well, first off, I was researching some experiences I had, and it seemed to go fairly well and mesh pretty well with some other things I had been reading that have to do with things that were outside of my previous religion. And I was also getting into a lot of things and researching my ancestry and things like that. And then it all kind of fell together around that time.
Okay, interesting. So you had experiences. Were they spiritual experiences or what?
Yes.
Okay, so do you want to walk us through some of them or give us an example or something?
Some of them I prefer rather not to talk about, but
sure.
I can think about. Let me think. What was probably one of the
I know recently on Twitter you brought up one that you
one.
recently had. I don't know if you want to go through that.
I mean I could, but that's more recent. When all these older ones are a bit more fuzzy, I can go with the one with Cornunos when I was in about first or second grade, and around that time of my life, I was being fairly heavily bullied, and I remember one time when I was in
I said, "Wow." Bullied.
Oh, okay, yeah. That was around that time, and I was being fairly heavily bullied. And then I went to the woods and had an experience with a vision of a horned figure within the trees, and I noticed it, and that stuck with me for a long while. And then eventually, after I've gotten into a lot of this research, I figured out that was Cornunos. The best imagery I can use to describe it is have y'all seen Over the Garden Wall? That old show. Okay.
Sorry, no.
It's fine.
How's that spelled? Bellachono? What was the
Cornunos?
Cornunos. Sorry.
Cernnunos.
Okay, I see. Okay, so you saw him in the woods, and was it something like scary for you or something
peaceful? Because it was a relief after. At least I had somebody at that time of my life.
Okay. So kind of like a
garden figure?
That was first time.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
So you had let's say a group of these type of experience that you would describe as visions of different figures from specific to polytheism.
Visions. Did you know that other things?
Visions and other things. And then you started investigating this somewhere along the way and you said that's what these are. This matches polytheism. Is that correct?
It matches portions of it, and then I ended up getting into the other aspects of it, which ended up making logical sense to me. it's a combination of things, but that's part of it, definitely.
Okay, so walk us through how, and is your version of polytheism and the people you interact with, are they basically the same, or do you guys have like doctrinal disputes, or you guys all on the same page?
Doctrinal disputes. No, not everybody's on the same page. There's different types of how you interpret it all. Some people are henotheists, some people are along the lines of animist. There's lots of interpretations. I tend to be a theological theological monist, if that makes sense. It's not monotheism, but it's theological monism, similar to.
Is that? Let me see if I understand that. Is it kind of similar to like there's a one God sort of, and then there's the multi gods who are either manifestations of that God or they're other separate entities? Is it something like that?
You can look at it like that, but that's not the exact interpretation I take. It's more like there's a culmination which makes up the monistic aspect, which explains a lot of the other things that you'd think would come awry. But it's more of a monistic concept than an actual direct figure. I don't think like inculmination would be a distinct individual, but more of a how do I say it? Culmination of everything, kind of like the Greek theon concept.
Yeah, kind of. I was going to say,
Similar to that.
isn't Zeus sort of like that? Like Zeus is also Zeus, like Deus. It kind of means general God, but it's also sometimes the lead God. But sometimes it's monotheistic, depending on.
It's not
who you're talking to.
monotheistic. It'd be henotheistic.
Okay.
But
So how does your faith work as a practicing thing? What do you have stuff that you do?
oh, definitely.
Like do you go places? Okay, so let's hear some
I
of that.
haven't really go places that much yet, but there is a lot of things. A lot of good ways to get an idea of the rituals would be to go to the Carmina Gallicia, Carminagadlica, just how you spell it. It's a book of old folk things from the Highlands in Scotland. And they have a lot of prayers and stuff that people would use. There's other things that I don't remember where I put the thing on the Nemetans, but a Nemetan would be similar to a sacred space. They're generally outdoors and in nature around groves of trees and things. And there's a specific setup to it and everything. There's things like that.
So do you practice this stuff on a daily type of basis? You do
There's
forms
some
of rituals or
some things I'll
Okay.
do on a daily basis. Not everything though can be done daily because it's just expensive. But there are you can prayers and things, and there's one thing I tend to do. Some people think it might be a misinterpretation, but I still enjoy doing it. You always put grass down under the table before you eat. That's one thing I do daily.
And what is that supposed to signify?
I have no idea yet. I'm still trying to figure that out. I just know that I read it in a Greek text, and I'm trying to incorporate what I can.
Okay, so when did you actually decide this is what I am? I'm a polytheist. That was about a year ago. And
The
did Ocean
31st.
have something to do with it? Was he?
He's
Did
the
he
one
evangelize
who
you?
he didn't evangelize. No, he made good arguments, and I thought they were. I agreed with him, and he made some good points and such. And I saw him, and I contacted him and talked with him, and I was already getting to that point, but he's the one who sealed the deal.
Okay, so I got you. So prior to that, what would you have called yourself?
Gnostic.
And were you kind of an agnostic, like?
No, Gnostic. Gnostic.
Oh, okay. Okay, so you kind of.
It was
So when you
really
were, like-
short, so I didn't learn much. But
Now, what about growing up? What faith were you raised in? Were you raised in a faith? Or were
Messianic
you-
Jewish.
Oh, wow, interesting. And what happened with that? Somewhere along the way, you started disconnecting from that.
Yeah, in some parts of where I was, there is a very big. I don't think it was healthy for my psyche and personally because of kind of the duality between how the Gentiles and Jews interacted and how much a lot of the Gentiles would desire to become Jews and hate who they were born as. So I didn't that was unhealthy. There's other things too, but that's a big part.
Okay, so what's the timeline on this? So when you're like 15 years old, you've been raised as a Messianic Jew,
I
And
started doing that when I was 10. I was non-denominational before that.
Oh, a Christian, non-denominational Christian.
Yeah, Messianic Jews are Christians too.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but that's what you mean, right? Non-denominational, like
Mhm.
going to like, okay,
Charismatic, the general.
right. Yeah, that's kind of sort of what I am. That's why. So you're try and help me understand what exactly Genesis was, and so somebody who doesn't understand your faith, give them some sort of working understanding of what it is you do and why it makes sense to you. And remember, this isn't a debate, so
Mhm.
you feel as comfortable as you want. Just give us an understanding. I'm not asking you to debate you.
That's
I'm just
fine.
asking you to understand.
I'm just trying to figure out like what specifically. There's a lot to it. It's complicated. It's hard to
Right, but
sum up.
that's why I'm
But
trying to figure out where to start because I don't know that much
mhm.
about it.
I could
And I
start
was
with the three worlds. That's usually a
go
good
ahead.
place to start.
Perfect.
Okay. If I have do you want me to send you an image in the chat if I could find it? If I could find it, it's.
Sure. Yeah,
I'll
and
just
then I can present
like.
it to the audience.
How do I? I'm trying to figure out how to send again in this. Here it is. Yeah, I
on the
figured
left
it
side.
out. There we go.
So, in other words, pretend I don't know anything about it. Just pretend,
Alrighty.
for example,
You probably
that I don't
don't,
know
but
anything. Yeah, exactly.
it's
I
fine.
don't. And
There you go.
I didn't
How's
watch
that?
the primer because
That's
I
fine.
thought it'd be better to not know anything. So
That's fine. Did you get the image?
It requires access.
Okay, Joy. I'm just bad at technology.
yeah, so am I.
Can I just send it to you over
I'm
Twitter?
terrible.
Yeah, that's fine.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Okay, but so the three worlds, is that like the
It's an important cosmological thing. It's not meant to be interpreted directly, but it's more or less meant. It's more or less meant to be interpreted. How do I say this? Metaphysically, I guess, or not necessarily. It can be interpreted physically, but because it's analogized towards the physical world, but it isn't always meant to be direct scientific examination.
I got you.
It's more or less a spiritual understanding. Here it is. All right,
Right.
got it for you. Once they see it, it should make more sense. You got it?
Yeah, I'm going to open it up in. Or actually, let's see if I can share my screen through this. Okay, screen share. Yes. Whoa.
Whoa.
All right.
That was
they should
Inception.
see it. All right.
There you go. Alrighty. So those are the three worlds that will be the big words: Albios, Bitus, and Duminos. And I'll explain all the other stuff around it too in a sec. But basically,
this is the three worlds from like Gaelic mythology.
they're the three worlds from all Celtic understanding. This is the Gaulish words, though. There's the three world concept is in all of the Celtic the Celtic religions. Albios, Bitus, and Duminos. Albios is the celestial realm, which encapsulates things like clouds, the sky, sun, etc. Bitus would encapsulate things like the depths, the sea, underground, or not Bitus. No, that would be Duminos. Would be the sea, the underground, all that stuff. Bitus would be the in between the mediary realm, which is the surface of the earth, all that and such. And then there, I have the directions as well. There's Medios, which is the middle, Tudos, which is north, Dextius, which is the south, Eri, which is
the east.
What is this? The east.
Yeah.
And then Eri, and then Eri again, which is to the west. I'm probably pronouncing them wrong because I'm still my Gaulish, but you can read them. So
okay,
that's what's important. And then each of these realms, and then Eri would be associated with Yamos, which is the darker half of, or which is the more chaotic aspect, and Samios, it's like a yin and yang. Samios would be the more orderly, brighter aspect, which would be associated with Albios, and then Kiamos is with Duminos. And then
so are these like representative of the rising sun and the setting sun then?
Yes, that's exactly why. That's how it's represented. Each day is counted by the each day is, or each full day is counted by the night, and then which goes into the day, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of like how the Jews do it every evening and stuff.
Yeah.
And then mostly because of the chaos before the order and things like that. From the universe rising from order, things along those lines. It's also how the calendar works, which is a whole nother subject. But those are the two dualities of Albios and Duminos, and then Bitus is the mediary in between, which is represented by the surface of the earth. And it is where Giamos and Samos interact. The best way to explain the worlds, another way to explain it would be to use a Venn diagram, and then those are how the three are just the third, or the in-between world, the third world, is basically just a combination or fusion of the other two of the duality where both parts exist and interact, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. So would the Albios be sort of the realm where the gods interact, like the spirit?
They're in all of them.
They're in all of them, okay.
Yes, this just depends on which ones you're talking about. It is who manifests within which. But
okay. So there would be like gods and spirits within the Bitos realm, so would each god sort of be specific to a certain realm? Like that's their domain?
That's how you would understand them. It's more of an because, like I said, this is more of a spiritual understanding than like literally restricted to the sky. That's not really what it means, but it's more to explain the aspects and what they represent and such. And then like Cernunnos is in Bitus, and he represents balance and in between and transition and things like that. And then Tyrannus would be in Albios, and he represents things like truth and order and establishment. And then in Duminos would be where Sukelos is.
Wait, who represents truth and order and establishment?
Tyrannus.
Tyrannus. Is that similar to Apollo in Greece? Similar
He'd be
idea,
a lot more similar to Jupiter.
Okay, gotcha. Now, in terms of your actual interaction, are you praying to some of these or all of these, or how does that work? Are you doing rituals?
I could not pray to 2,000 gods at once. That's not going to work. But you can do that. You can interact through ritual. There's a lot of ways to interact. Prayer and
right, but you specifically, how does it work for you on a to somebody? Like, how does it work for you? What do you do, and what do you think you're getting? Like, what do you think is your? Does that make sense? The question I'm asking.
You're asking how does ritual work? Like, you want the specifics?
Well, no, not whatever you think is important to you. Like, if you said, Craig, how does Christianity work? And I'll say, like, well, I go into my prayer closet, and I go, God, you got to deal with John Buck, and I start praying, and and then I'll have things that I mean, it might be, if you haven't answered these questions before, it might be hard to just explain. But so on a day, you don't necessarily go to a church or anything like that. Do you have people who you interact with, and then you perform rituals?
I don't really have anybody to do it with in my local area. I have most of my connection is from online. I'm solitary.
Okay, so you perform rituals though,
yes,
daily or okay, good.
Not daily.
So let's start with that.
I wish, but there is.
Well, Ocean probably does it daily, doesn't he? He probably does it daily.
I'll have to see. I mean, if you count, it depends on what you count as ritual. I'm thinking of the big old elaborate thing. If you just mean like a simple prayer or something, then yeah, I do that daily. But if you mean like, a whole, a whole Nemeton ceremony or something, that would be different, and that would take a lot longer to set up.
So when you say prayers, who are you specifically praying to?
Depends. The morning prayers are generally due towards Granus, the god of the sun. Nightly ones I'll do to Siriona, the goddess of the moon and the stars. I'll pray to. I usually always go to Cernunnos first in order because he's he's in between. He's the opener of the way. He's generally just consider him a gatekeeper, and he's the one who allows you to initiate towards the others. So I guess.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So we're getting somewhere. So when you wake up in the morning, you pray towards it's the god of the sun that you're praying for in the morning. Yes. Okay. Now, how is this in terms of a faith experience? Do you think this is a literal being that you're praying to, or is it some type of metaphorical Or do you think you're contacting an actual being with this
A
prayer? Or are you
literal mind, yes.
Okay, and it controls the sun? Or is that a metaphor
it's a
for...
bit more let's see, how do I explain this? This is gonna be
Yeah, it's probably complicated mechanics-wise, but...
yeah, there's an analogy I really like to use. Yeah, here's it. Basically, I'd say the internal essence of the gods is like a hand, and then how they interact, which is basically, guess you could say the sun is his interaction or something along those lines, would be the glove. Does that make sense?
John, does that make sense? I think it kind of makes sense.
The way I sometimes thought about these types of things is like it's a symbolic representation of how they interact with the world.
Some things are symbolic. Some things I'd say are fairly literal. Some things are more symbolic, like the horse goddess. You can treat it literally as well, but the symbolic part's what really gets you into the nitty gritty of what it means, and at least within Indo-European, which gets into more complicated stuff. But within that, it's generally interpreted to represent things like untamed sexuality and things along those lines. Is a lot of the representations, and more of sovereignty and things like that. That's generally like that would be like what a horse goddess would generally represent.
Oh wait, so what is a horse goddess? Is that another?
There's there's multiple ones. If you're talking about in general, in the Gaulish pantheon, that'd be Epona.
Okay, what is
so?
Sorry, go ahead, Craig.
Oh, well, I was just going to...
Craig.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Junior Craig. Okay, so there's a pantheon of gods. In the simplest possible terms, is there a negative god? Is there a god that represents kind of equivalent to the devil, or no such type of thing? Is there an evil?
There's nothing that's the same as the devil, as in like an embodiment of all the evil, awful things. There are there's the chthonic or the chaotic, and then which would correspond to Luminos, and then there's the Albios. But I wouldn't represent them as good and evil, because Sukelos is basically the lord of, not really the lord of the dead, but the lord of the underrealms. I guess kind of. He's not really a psychopunk figure. He's more of but he's very jolly, and he represents something more positive than that. There's a lot of
so it's more like...
it's dualistic in a lot of the representations, and then it gets into some weird stuff. But there's not really direct good and evil. There's if I can remember the terms. I remember there's this place where I found some terms that are really useful if I can find the paper. But if that makes sense, there's more chaotic and less orderly, and then there's orderly. That's the general dualistic idea, because it...
Yeah, that kind of matches, like, for example, Dionysus in Greek mythology is kind of a destructive... It's sometimes embodied as a destructive god, but it's not necessarily evil. It's also the god of fertility. It's also the god of the theater. Mm-hmm. And it's really complicated. Like, how it's all those things, I don't know. But it's like... It sounds like similar ideas. That there's
the best, and the god who Sukelos is most analogized with, especially within iconography, would be Kern from the Etruscan mythology. But Kern's far more evil and wicked, at least from what I know, than Sukelos, which is more positive and happy. And yeah.
So you call on individual gods for different reasons. Is that fair to say? Like, you have different gods that you call on in different situations.
You could say call on. I'd say request, but it's fine. However, I just think at least in my opinion, it'd be kind of more impious to say call on, like you're summoning them. But request, yeah, I would say that.
Okay. And are you guys roughly on the same page in the other polytheists on Twitter? Are you all kind of in the same area?
Depends on what you mean. Like, not all Gaulish or anything. What do you mean? Like,
well, like, do you? I don't know. It's hard for me to because I wasn't expecting not to understand it this much. I thought it was going to be relatively like there were things that I was going to be immediately able to lay hold of and go, oh, that's analogous to this, and that's analogous to this. So
I can give you something. I think you can analogize with. I can use some people probably wouldn't like this, but I can use the term Trinity if that's helpful, or triad. I generally, at least if you know Hinduism fairly well, you know there's the Trinity in that, and then there's also the female version. There is a Trinity within at least from the interpretation I take in the theology. Some people are going to take issue with this, but I still hold the view. There's a trinity of Tyrannus, Sukelos, and Cernunnos, because I view them as the embodiments of the three realms, and they would form up the Trinity, which would make a sort of the Gaulish parallel towards the Theon in the Greek stuff, which you generally use at least I use the term the Guten.
Okay,
does that make sense? Is that less weird?
I can kind of almost understand it. I mean, I guess the Trinity we in Christian theology probably doesn't make any sense to an outsider immediately.
It's not
either,
the same as the Trinity, because
right. I'm just saying that
yeah.
for somebody who doesn't know anything about Christianity, like say I was in India trying to explain the Trinity to, or to a Hindu who had never heard of it in Christian terms, it probably would take a while for them. Like we talk about it a lot on Twitter and on YouTube. So the concept, even to atheists, they kind of at least get the basics of the concept. This is relatively new.
Is there anyone in the chat, by the way? Sorry.
Yeah. There is. We had a couple of questions too. Whenever you're ready, I was just gonna.
Sorry, I'll let Craig go.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
So we got
interrupt.
Surus, Bad-Tempered Badger, Wolfred.
Oh, Surus is really cool. What's up, Surus?
And Samuels. I don't know if you know them, but
I know Bad-Tempered Badger and Surus. I probably know the other person.
By the way, Surus, we were going to do a show, so we still got to set that up at some point. I'll DM you. Okay, so in Hinduism, there's, it gets really complicated because there's also different spins on Hinduism, but generally there's the concept of Brahman, which in some versions of Hinduism, that's kind of like a prime mover, kind of like a uncaused cause. Sometimes it's a being, and sometimes it's just sort of an energy source of life.
Yeah, the Guten would be similar to the Brahman, very similar.
Okay, so it's a kind of source of all life type general. Is it a being, or is it just
not necessarily a
entity?
being? I'd say it's a concept. I would say it's a being, but I would say it's like the Theon. I still have to compare it to the Theon because that's the closest thing I'm going to get to. It's more of a culmination. It's like an emergence property, if that makes sense.
Yes, it kind of makes sense.
Perfect. How an ant hill or ant colonies are emergence properties of ants.
I see.
Okay.
Like a superorganism.
Superorganism. Don't say that.
Don't say that? Okay, sorry.
No, I'm kidding. I'm just kidding.
John,
I don't care.
Never say that.
Yeah, John.
I tried to tell him. Come on, John. This is totally not. You never say that to a polytheist.
So what you're about to say? Sorry.
So when you pray, you're praying to specific beings at specific times, and you consider them beings or generalized principles.
Beings,
or you
definitely.
Okay,
beings, yes.
And do they actual have power to answer? How literally would you say?
What do you mean by literally? Like
if well, give me an example of a prayer that you would say and how it would manifest.
So you pray for inspiration into something, and then you stumble upon something that helps you get into something like that. It may seem like it's just chance, but there you go. You pray for inspiration, and then you stumble onto some kind of show or something that gives you an idea for a concept, or maybe you stumble upon a nice book like that. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, that makes 100% sense.
Perfect.
That's that's also called divining in like New Age, where you kind of ask for guidance here, and then you walk into a thing and try to be led. So it's not that dissimilar from trying to be led by the Spirit in terms of how a Christian might interpret that.
You could say that. You could say that, I guess. Yeah.
So what are you trying to do in life in general, and how does your faith apply? Like, are you an author or anything like that? Or Creative person?
I'd say I'm a creative person. I've had people describe me as such. I like to write a lot. I like to do a lot of work. A lot of my stuff I've been working on has been for the Gaulish community. I'm trying my best to sort out a lot of theology, because still a lot of it's tangled, because we're mostly sorting this out through place names and things like that, and comparatively towards other religions and stuff and etymology. So a lot of this stuff is still fairly new. Studying Gaulish has really only been fairly active since the 1930s, so it's still a fairly new subject comparatively towards things like Roman and Greek records.
So where did it come from? Was it does it have its roots in the ancient, or
where does the Gauls come from? They're very ancient. Like they came from the Hassel area, or all the Celts came from the Hassel area, which is in, I think, Austria. It's a town in Austria. That's basically the birthplace of the Celtic culture and everything. In the language, it's more or less defined by the language roots, but that's basically the birthplace of the language would be the Hassel area. During the Hassel period,
I always associated Celts with Ireland and England.
They're definitely there, but they were the main culture in Western Europe, basically from the Balkans down to Anatolia to Ireland. They were the main culture there for a long time. I think it was either it was at least from 800 BC, but I think it might have been longer. I can't remember though. But it goes, at the very least, it's been since it was like that since 800 BC until the Romans.
Okay, so the type of thing that is, at least in my mind, now this could be totally off base, but traditional pagan religion is similar to what you're talking about. Like when you see something like Druids and Stonehenge and things like that.
Oh yeah, I'm working on that right now. I'm working on becoming one of them. But But
you're working on becoming a Druid?
Yeah, I'm trying. It takes
awesome.
a while.
So how does that work? Awesome.
That's complicated.
Are you gonna have are you gonna be able to make spells and like put potions and things like that?
No, I'll explain to you what a Druid actually kind of is, at least from the historical sense of the Gaulish. There's a difference in how they are in the Gaelic, which is getting to another thing, which is complicated and annoying because I got an argument. But basically, the easiest analogy I can make is a Druid would be more like a theologian who specializes in things like morality and theology and philosophy. That's the easiest. Okay. It's more like a theologian title. The Ovates would be the more people who do that kind of stuff.
Is it a soothsayer? Is there a difference between a Druid and a soothsayer? Is that the same idea?
Look up what a soothsayer is. I forgot. I haven't heard that term forever. Oh, it's seeing the future. That'd be more something an Ovate does. That's so. Okay. Ovate, like you consider that probably a Druid, but the Druid's more of a specific title within the order. There's bards, there's Ovates, and there's Druids. And then there's subsections of that, but yeah.
Do you know Yeats at all? The poet William Butler Yeats?
Yeah, I know him. I need to read more of his stuff. I haven't read enough of it, but from what I've seen, he's pretty good. I like his stuff. From what I've seen so far.
I think he started getting into a version of this type of stuff.
There's Christian Druids.
There are.
Catholic. Okay, yeah, you can use that as a philosophical position, or you can use it as a religious position. It just depends. But a lot of the modern Druidry is not that accurate. It's more of a romantic. I don't mind it, but it's more of a romantic interpretation based off of the Enlightenment era than an actual. What I'm trying to do is the historical stuff. Like that's what I'm a Reconstructionist. I'm trying to get as much as I can, as accurately as I can.
Accurate to the original Austrian.
Yes.
Original Austrian. So
it's not all Austrian, but the original.
But to those type of origins of like the faith itself, is that fair to say? Like, okay.
Yeah, the origins, you'd say, of the faith. I'm trying to get as close as I can.
So how do you go about like becoming a Druid then? Like, is there somebody that you go to, or is there like?
I wish. I'm going to some people help me out, but so far from one guy I've been reading, Botet, he's been fairly good. He has some issues with some of his work, but I think I've been talking with him and stuff, and there's a lot of principles. But I'd say a best comparison to Druids, at least in the Reconstructionist sense, would be Hindu Brahmins. Right now, since there isn't any there isn't really any reconstructionist, at least with the Gaulish, from the Gaulish perspective, any reconstructionist orders at the moment that I can find.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to try and set up one with my friend myself that we're working on right now.
All right.
A druid is
Interesting.
more or less defined by people recognizing you
Uh-huh.
as the position of a theologian or something. That's more or less
Okay.
how it works.
So that's why you're going about like trying to get a firm understanding of like the
Mhm.
background theology and the mythology and building up
Yes.
I see. Yeah, we're getting some people in the chat saying how you're a great asset to the Gaulish community.
Oh, really?
Uh-huh.
It's nice of them.
Yeah, I agree. Now, in terms of like you mentioned Hindu Brahmanism and things like that, are you trying to be a purist about your religion, or do you incorporate ideas from as you see fit from, for example, Hinduism, if you think it applies?
I do
Or
think there's
you
actually a lot of aspects of Hinduism, at least the Proto-Indo-European aspects, that would be part of the original, because this Proto-Indo-European, and that's the culture that all the European and Indian and some areas of the Middle East aspects
So
go
are
to.
you saying there are similarities between the Hindu concepts and the similarities between the concept that you're dealing with in your faith
Yes,
from
like the
Austria?
Trinity. Like, it's not from
Interesting.
Austria, it's from Gaul, but that's the origin of it. If you want a personal opinion of mine, I think this is just personal. It's not backed up by anything. It's backed up by theories of mine, but it's not official or anything. I have a personal belief that the Druids and the Brahmins may have split from a common ground. That's just personal, though. Don't take that as official doctrine or anything. That's just a personal opinion.
Because you see so many similarities in
Yes, you can look at a lot etymological similarities, lots of similarities, especially within the writings too. But that's my
right.
opinion.
But that's one of the things that I started to argue in my videos, that there's so many overlapping similarities in faiths from all over the world, and I think that's more because there's like an underlying primal reality to a lot of the things that people deal with, and they tend to come up with the same. But again,
That's
just
Jungian. That sounds so Jungian.
It's that's where we're
That's
at, right, John?
the
That's
deep.
totally where we're at.
The deep. Yeah, I'm just.
Yeah.
The underbellies of the
Trust me,
unconscious.
pagans love Jungian, or some of
I
them do.
bet.
Some of them hate him, but some of them love his stuff.
Well, so where are you at with those type of ideas? Are you on board with stuff like that, or no? Not really.
What, the deep and Jungian stuff?
Yes.
I'm still looking into it, but I think a lot of it rings true. Yes.
Okay, good. That's what I thought you were gonna like be on the same page with that. I heard polytheism. I didn't realize it was such a specified. I guess that's the part that I didn't realize it was so specific. I thought it was more general concepts, but it seems to be you're trying to go back to an actual original idea of how it was practiced and original rituals and things like that.
Yeah, I'm trying my hardest to. I can't do everything. That's just impossible, but I can use what I have to at least fashion something with the original essence intact, and that's what's important.
Right, but you're trying to do that as a way of bringing it to an active faith here in the here and now,
Yes.
not as like a scholarly endeavor. Like, this is so interesting how Druids thought they could do this. You're trying to reenact bring authentic reenactment. Am I hearing?
Within
am I
reason, yes. That's
Okay.
what I'm trying to do. Within reason, yes.
Yeah, man, that's really interesting. How many people do you deal with online? Your channel is, what's it called? It's called Polygia?
Polyology. Polyology.
Oh, polyology.
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
Polygia. That's no.
I figured he was pulling. What's going on here? So what are you guys trying to do with the channel? Just toss around the concepts, or are you trying to introduce it to the general population, or how would you define it? You might not have thought it through.
Wait, can you repeat that?
If you haven't.
Sorry.
What's the channel? Are you trying to
It's mostly to
interact with
inform
each
people.
other?
It's mostly to inform people.
Inform people outside. So it's
Yes.
This is what polytheism is about.
Or people
and-
inside to get deeper knowledge, but it's just
Right, okay.
just for educational purposes.
So it's kind of like, if I want more info about it, I'll go click on your links, and it's kind of geared towards learning about polytheism and what it means.
Mm-hmm. Various sects and things like that.
And so I guess there's more than one splinter group, and there's a lot of sects within this Is that fair to say that there's a
Oh,
lot
definitely. There's lots of different religions, things like that go under the title, and there's lots of different ways about that people generally go under doing it and things like that.
and why your particular version? What I get is you want to make your version, you want to map it up to the original
As close as
to
I
the best of
can.
your-
Yeah.
Okay. And you think you are ascribing to at least some of the beings you interact with real agency, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you believe they have real power.
Yes, I do.
Okay. John, I mean, this is very interesting. Any questions? I'm interested, but
does the chat have anything too?
Yeah, we can go through that as
You
well.
want?
I had, I guess, one question of like, is there any specific god that you, I guess, have what you feel like is a closer affinity towards, or feel like a more personal relationship with in some way?
Siriona.
Oh, that's a good question.
Siriona. Okay. And sorry.
Go ahead. Why? What's
That's the
her,
story.
you know?
It's more of a personal story.
Oh, okay. Yeah. We don't need to get
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So we got some questions in the chat. Okay. So this is from Samuelis. Are our inner parts in our mind represented by these gods? I mean, where we have internal conversations.
Huh?
I guess drawing a connection there between like we have the external gods and then our personal, I guess, ideas about them. Maybe
There's definitely different interpretations that people have based off their experiences. I'd say it's likely that is due to a different face of God being shown towards different people, but there's definitely different interpretations if that's what the question's asking.
Yeah, it seems like it. Let's see, there's another one. Oh no, I guess I missed it. Oh, okay. Well, we can get into my questions then now.
Is that it? Is that the only question?
That was the one from the chat.
Mhm.
They were having some conversations between themselves. So, okay, you had mentioned that like there's the rituals, and like if you were to go about doing it every single day, it'd be like really expensive to go.
It depends on which ritual. I mean, some people wouldn't define prayer as a ritual. That's not expensive.
Right. Okay. And then like putting the grass underneath the table before eating. That's another, I guess, form of ritual, but a very small one. So then what are these like larger ones that you're talking about?
The Nemetan rituals are a lot larger. I've attempted some of them. Those are more complicated. It also.
So would it be like a burning or something? I know
you could fires
like that.
You can do that. You can do a fire. If you're outside, you generally do a candle if you're inside, unless you have like a fireplace.
Oh.
But preferably to do it outside. But there'd be a fire there. There's usually a well or something that represents the well. There's a whole way to do it and a way to go about it. And there's different types of you can use the ADF system. You can use more specific systems because the ADF is usually more general, which you can basically kind of apply it to multiple different religions. But there's multiple different ways of doing it. I like Segamaris's ritual he has. I can send the outline to you, but it'd take a while to go over.
Okay, yeah, you can. I don't know if we'll be able to get into it, but I'm interested in it. Okay, so you were saying like either having a well or something that represents a well. So these specific like more drawn out rituals, there's an element of like symbolic understanding between the things. So like you have to have the well representing, I don't know, maybe part of the underworld. What was the
Duminos? It's what I think you're trying to refer to.
Yeah. Is that what the well like represents in some way?
It could be used for that. It's generally used for purification, where you sprinkle the water on, unless you want to use the other thing for that. But and you can also use it. You also use it to immerse things and drop things in, because there's a lot of immersion, especially within Gaulish things, where they would drop their prized objects into the water and things like that and leave them there. That's where a lot of the archaeology comes from. Like you drop in rivers and things, like your favorite sword or something like that.
Okay, so it's sort of like a sacrifice is something that's personal to you or meaningful or something that's
That can be definitely a part of it. That's where the wishing wells, where you flip a coin into the well and make a wish. They came from Celtic stuff like that. Immersions.
Okay.
If that draws a parallel.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense then. So okay, that's interesting. Huh. Okay, so there's been that. Okay, so there was this thing I'd read from actually one of Jung's books, "Man's Modern Man in Search of a Soul." He brings up how this I guess tribe in Africa that he was like cataloging, they had this ritual where they would spit into their hand and then raise it up into the sky. And he had said like if you were to ask any of them why they were doing that, they like wouldn't really have any sort of response to that, just because that was like they didn't require a response. Sort of like this is just what we do. Like, but he of course like was able to sort of build up a symbolic understanding of what it represented, like them offering up their own fluids and part of themselves towards the sun in order as, I guess, a bearing of themselves or something like that. It's been a little while since I read it, but it seemed fascinating to me that there was these sets of rituals that are embodied within the tribe without them having some sort of like clear, I guess, understanding of it. Like, I mean, it still, I guess, made sense to them, but made sense not like from a, I guess, rational or symbolic perspective, but just through their embodied practices. So I guess my question was like, is that kind of like part of what you're trying to do is to build up an understanding of what these like original practices were, maybe even before you even have any sort of symbolic I guess understanding of it for what it meant to them at the time. Like you had mentioned that with the putting the grass underneath the table. Not sure exactly why they did it.
It could have just been because they sat on grass or hay bales or something like that.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
That could be another reason, but that's gets into more stuff. Because I know the Greeks did tend to, what they wrote about the Gauls, they tried to make them sound exotic, so they could be just something like that. But
All right, but okay. So is this then part of? It feels like for these pagans, there's a strong desire to kind of get a closer connection with one's own ancestry. Is that part of it for you? Like, I don't know if you're.
Yeah, there's a part of it for me. Or I want to try to reenact as much as I can and recreate a lot of it so that I can get a closer connection and back to an old practice that goes way back.
Oh, wait. And are you of a Celtic descent?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. And so is that typical, I guess, for pagans, where if they're, say, Anglo-Saxon, they'll try to they'll follow the pantheon of like Thor and Loki and things like that, or if they're of, I guess, Greek descent, they'll maybe follow the Greek pantheon. Is that generally how it is? Like it's connected to whatever their
I don't know if that's common. I don't know how common that kind of idea is. I know it's the one I generally use because just personal, but I'm not sure how common it is for people to do that. There are plenty of people who go just purely based off experience, which is fine with me, and they prefer to do it based off what they've seen more or less than ancestry. I do it as a combination of my ancestry and what I've seen and such. So,
okay. So like, there's some people that come like get into polytheism from, I guess, just direct personal experience. Like maybe
most of them actually.
Oh, okay. And so is that usually like a specific god and or pantheon that is reaching out to them, and then they look further into it and then eventually become polytheists for that or like towards that god or set of gods?
From a lot of the people who've talked about it, yes, it's how it happens.
Okay. And I guess oh, go ahead, Craig.
I just had one question about, you mentioned the wishing well as a sort of had pagan origins. Are there any other things in today's world that you could point to other than the obvious Thor that have like that are neo-pagan in that sense? There's probably a lot.
Old, like newly made new practices from pagans, or you want the older ones? You said neo-pagan.
And anything like
the ancient stuff.
well, anything around today that has its roots that we that we wouldn't.
Like,
You
is
know what
it
I'm saying?
mistletoe and Christmas from a
Huh?
pagan? Huh?
What'd you say?
Oh, yeah. Mistletoe from like in Christmas. Is that like from pagan origins?
People will dispute that, but
Okay.
the mistletoe, at least the pagan origin of mistletoe that I can remember, comes from the Druids. There's a Roman text about them using mistletoe in a sacrificial ceremony.
Okay.
Also,
That's an
Christmas
idea.
trees are Christmas trees. People dispute, but it's a pagan symbol of evergreen, right? Of
If I
springtime,
can, it's no, it's not. Well, it's supposed to be for the winter, but
right? But
there's
you're
arguments
putting
against that.
spring. You're putting spring into the winter.
That's a
Like
Norse
it's
thing, and
evergreen.
I'm not that familiar with the Norse, so I think I'm not sure
Right.
what it is.
Yeah, some of this might be obscure because, and also there's agendas. Like some people who associate mistletoe with Christmas are going to, even if that is pagan in origin, they're going to dispute it because they don't, they're Christian and they don't want it it's like Easter. There's a lot of dispute about whether that is
I
pagan
actually had a debate
origins.
about that. That was a fun debate.
Who'd you debate on that?
Inspiring philosophy.
Oh wow, who won?
We went to a mutual
Inspiring
agreement to
philosophy.
agree to disagree.
Inspiring philosophy. Wait a minute. That's like he's like one of the. Is that the same guy who just debated Aaron Ra?
Yeah.
Is that the same? Am I thinking of the right
Yeah.
guy?
That's Michael Jones. Yeah. Yeah. He
Oh,
also
okay.
debated Ocean on the pagan origins of Christmas too, I think.
Oh, wow. And so, what was the consensus? You guys agreed to disagree on that too.
I
The
think.
the Aaron Ra debate. Wow. I just watched the first half hour, but man, he was smoking him in the first half hour. I didn't watch the rest so far.
I'll let you
But
watch the debate and decide who won. I'm going to let you choose. He brought up some good points, and I'll say that. But at the end of the thing, we agreed to disagree. I'm not going to try to be
Yeah.
prideful or
Yeah.
anything and
Yeah.
say
That's
I
kind of
won or I smoked him, because that's rude, and I'm not going to be like that. It's arrogant. But I will say we agreed to disagree at the end of the debate, and I liked it. I liked Inspiring Philosophy. He's a nice guy.
yeah, he's good. His channel's good. He's thorough with a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. I'm sort of curious, I guess, then, like how it seems like these types of like internet debates are primarily going on between like the Christians and the atheists, and I think partially due to the Christian over, I don't know, I don't know, the Christian kind of, I guess, typical.
What? Cultural dominance?
Yeah.
You can say it. Cultural dominance. Sup, right here. Yeah, you can say it, John, because we're dominating the culture. Sure enough, John. Tell it like it is.
I don't know. I was just curious of like what your I guess perceptions of these types of things going on typically at being a polytheist, and how these things, like, I don't know, is it just not even really relevant to you, or like are you?
Depends on the argument. I'll defend Christians on certain things, and I'll defend atheists on certain things. It just depends. Things I agree with or not.
Mhm. Yeah.
The atheists tend to interact more. Well, at least Ocean. They interact more freely with Ocean than they do with the Christians. There's less baggage, but that's because there's very few atheists who are formal polytheists and walked away from it because they got issues with it. So
And pagans aren't usually as evangelical as a lot of Christians I've seen, so
Yeah, that's true.
they probably feel more comfortable with that.
well, is in pagan theology, are you even supposed to evangelize? I mean, are you? Is your job even? It
No.
says in the Bible to try and convince you. It probably doesn't say in
No,
the pagan.
it doesn't say. There's no having distinct text that some people do that, and that's fine. But there's not. Usually, the texts are more up for or more loosely held to. They're not as strict and everything. But there's no text that go out to say to evangelize or forcibly convert or anything like that. So
Right. What that actually brings up the interesting question I forgot to ask. What are the texts? Are there texts that you refer to out there? Are there wisdom texts?
There are wisdom texts. A lot of them are post-Christian though, so I have to kind of put the paganism back in. But at least with the Celtic stuff, there's the Havamal for the Norse folks, and then there's a collection of old Norse poems, and then there are a lot of the Brahmanlans and things like that. I have to probably make a lot of my stuff and a lot of my text to map out my theology, and I have to use more or less comparative things, other things, since I'm Gaulish, and there's any text we have are literally just fragments of a few sentences.
Right. So you're trying to dig into the original context of the practice way back when.
So I use things like,
And are you finding that relatively hard to do in terms of sourcing? Are you
it gets difficult. It gets difficult.
How much time?
Sorry.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. How much time was the end of the question?
I spend a lot of time on this stuff. It gets difficult, but I do have sources that I can use. There's the Irish Book of Invasions, and I love Irish mythological books and stuff like that I can use, which are very helpful. I could use the Interpretatio Romana, which is very helpful too, because that's what in the documents on the Gauls and stuff from the Greeks, and I can use place names, etymology, and how the language worked, and things like the Coligny calendar and things like that, which help me figure it out. I don't have all the information that like a Roman or a Chematicist would have, but I have what I got, and that's life.
Interesting, John.
Okay,
go ahead.
Do you want to go into the recent spiritual experience that you had? I guess you went on sort of a trip abroad, or I think.
I'd go with that. That's a fun thing.
Yeah. So where'd you go to?
I went down to the one of the islands off the Irish coast. It was near Galway. It's Dune something. Forgot the last name. It's fairly significant based off my experience, though. I've had some people help me interpret it, and they've come to certain differing conclusions.
Okay.
But,
so like, was it just kind of going through, like you went out there just kind of in a quiet peace of mind and like doing some meditation or something? Like, were you seeking out a spiritual experience?
No, it was completely new. It was I was there to see the ancient fort on the island. It's like a 3,000-year-old fort.
Oh wow! And did that have like connections to the Gaulish past?
It had more connections to the insular Irish Celtic stuff, and that's probably in the experience seemed to as well. The interesting thing is the island was actually named after one of the sons of the deity that a lot of people think I experienced.
Okay, so is that let's see, in your tweet thread you had mentioned either Ondagda or
the Ondagda or the Sukelos.
Sukelos, okay. And which one do the people that you talked to think it might have been?
Some people think it's Sukelos. Some people think the person was the Dagda. There's evidence both ways that can point to either one. There is the hammer and what else was it? The hammer and I think the axe, which points to the Dagda, or not the Dagda, which points to Sukelos, or not the axe. The hammer and cloak, I think, point to Sukelos.
Okay.
And also being within the chthonic area under a cliff in the dark would probably point to Sukelos as well. And then the Dagda would be pointed to based off of that. It was Ireland, the harp, the cauldron, the wind moving, the cryptic message, and I guess the emanations from the hammer.
Okay.
And also the name of the island and things.
Okay, yeah. So looking at on the Wikipedia page for the Gaulish gods, Ondagda, it doesn't seem to be a part of that. Is he part of a different?
No, he's the Gaelic one. He's part of it. That's the issue. That's why I'm trying to figure it out, because Sukelos and the Dagda are very similar figures, kind of like Tyrannus and Zeus, but they're very similar. But I'm just trying to figure out who it was based off of that.
So is there sometimes this kind of like, I guess, muddiness within the different versions of polytheism, where like there's kind of the similarities between the Greek pantheon and the Roman pantheon? Is there kind of that same thing where there's these similarities in figures that I guess you might say are the different faces that they represent to people? Or are they
the different faces would be the different experiences people have with a professed deity or something.
Okay.
With one of the deities they experience.
Okay.
You could describe variations as different faces, but that gets into weirder stuff, and that gets into a whole different kind of theological thinking, which some people don't like.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I was just curious because I know for a lot of like Christians, when they like being raised in a kind of secluded area of faith, and then finding out that all throughout the world there are these different types of religions that have like similarities or other similar backgrounds that they just didn't realize at all. Is there that sort of same I don't know, just confusion or worries that there are? I'm not trying to like stir up doubts or anything, but I'm just curious, like how, where there are these sorts of similarities. Are they just seen as coincidences or similar figures that maybe, like what's your ideas on like?
I see what you mean. The similarities
Yeah,
within
like
the deities.
the multiple pantheons. Like, are there just thousands of gods, and some of them have like a greater power in for certain people, or within certain people, or locations, or
That gives it different interpretations, and
okay.
there's a lot of ones people hold to. There's the hyper pluralist one, which is more of an animistic interpretation, where they're all separate, each different. But the reason they're so similar, if you're wondering why that, is because of the common Proto-Indo-European root.
So well, I don't know. That to me sounds just almost more like an attempt from a secular point of view of trying to describe why they have similarities.
I could do it from a spiritual as
people.
well. I'm just telling you that's the at least within academia, that's the main reason why they're so similar.
Okay, so like would the spiritual connection then be? I don't know.
There's multiple interpretations of that. Like there's the pluralistic animistic where they're all together, or I guess not all together, but you know what I mean. They're all side by side existing, and then there's the other one where each thunder god's like a different face of one ultimate thunder god, things like that. There's also that interpretation, and then there's one there's the Wiccan one where it's dual theistic, where each manifestation I'm not a Wiccan, but I know that there's like a dualistic theology where just the Great Mother and the Great Father figure, or the Lady of the Lord, and then each of the deities are just manifestations of them. There's a lot of interpretations of that.
Okay, so like each deity is like a smaller representation of the larger deity that they are a conglomerate of, or not a conglomerate, but you know, like,
that's one interpretation.
Okay,
that's not all of Wicca, but that's what I remember the general Gardnerian Wicca from what I know.
Okay, so like within Wicca, then that would be sort of like why there are these multiple thunder gods is because they
all connect to the Lord or something like that.
Okay.
Just
or the aspect of the Lord that is thunder, and then each of those are okay.
That could be one way of looking at it.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What's maybe your personal take on it then? Like, do you? I don't know. Maybe you haven't like built.
I'm still thinking about a lot of it. I'm leaning towards a certain kind of mix between the pluralistic and then the multiple faces kind of idea, but I'm still not sure yet. This is still complicated. I still have to work that out.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Head. So, how is it you go about like trying to learn more about the Gaulish gods and the practices and the mythology and things like that? Like, what is it you do? Like, since this is all kind of very new.
I can use inference based off of older texts on them. I can read papers of people who did etymological studies and configurations and things like that. I can look at comparative religions and how they do things. There's a lot of stuff I can do.
Okay, so you're like constantly kind of seeking out that type of stuff of like just looking to whatever might not spark interest, but spark some sort of sense of connection between these types of things, or like directly like looking into the whatever history or texts that we have from those times.
Yeah.
Okay. And so like just going to like how do you find these ancient texts? Are they like online somewhere, or
I mean, there's a good website I like. It's called sacredtext.org and has a lot of the stuff that I like to go through and read. I can find other books that comment on it as well, and I can find recommended reading lists from people who've already delved into a lot of the stuff, and I can ask them about it as well.
Okay. And you're learning to read Gaulish also? Like,
I'm going to try. It's taken me forever, but I will try to learn how to speak it and read it and all that. Eventually, I'm not anywhere close yet, but I'm still working.
Are a lot of these texts that you're looking at like written in Gaulish?
There's no Gaulish text. There's a few Gaulish fragments, but there's no Gaulish texts.
Oh.
I use other Celtic texts.
Okay.
Like the Mabinogi or the Book of Invasions or things along those lines.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, there's so much to this. Like, you seem to have like a huge, expansive knowledge of this book because you're like bringing in all these things. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so new. I've never heard of this type of stuff before. So, there's a lot to this. I was very surprised, I guess.
You didn't think it was going to be this much?
Yeah, I guess so. I kind of just expected. I don't know what I expected, but it's surprising. Okay. So in I don't know, like the only real like understanding I had for any types of polytheism is very limited. But like one of the things I had read was Plato's Republic, which and Plato, it seems, kind of like goes into his, I guess, theory of why. His differences in opinion for the gods between, I guess, what was held at that time. And that's the thing, like, I don't even know what was directly held at the time for the people there. But there was, I don't know, this, how he kind of describes it in the book was that the gods are, well, there, I guess, two different ways that you can kind of interpret it. There's the, I guess, more secular interpretation that the gods are the psychological manifestations of our, I guess, more underlying drives and urges and things like that. And when you have like a large group of people that are all of that similar, like lacking for that drive or urge or something like that, it's as if this large group of people are all acting out this one specific personality together, like in one way, like that. If you wanted to take like a secular interpretation of polytheism in action, like through wars,
like an atheopagan,
is that like,
yes, those are things, those people,
okay.
those people exist.
Okay. So is that kind of the like, I know there's some connections to like folkism and
atheopagans aren't folkists.
Okay.
I mean, some can be, but I mean, they're not contingent on each other. Folkism is a whole nother story. That's discussing ideology, but yeah, that's another.
Okay, so then what is atheopagan? Like they're
more like Jungians, I'd say. The best analogy, not all of them, but a lot of them are like Jungians who find value in the ritual and experiences. They just don't hold to a theistic interpretation of it.
Okay. And then, so the other, I guess, interpretation that I was going for, that Plato was going through, was that the gods are, I guess, influencing the people in order to enact, or this is maybe less Plato, but more, I guess, the Homeric epics, things like that, where the gods are manifesting their will through the people. And so, like, when the gods are having disagreements in the I guess, ethereal realm, then that will be expressed through the different worshippers of those gods in action, like through wars and things like that. I don't know if that's a similar interpretation to the atheopagan's perspective. My question then is, like, what are the connections between mankind or a certain people and the gods up there? Like, does the god have influence over them, or is it the people, like, willingly accepting the commands being given by the gods?
I mean, it could be both. You could willingly do it, or you could be forced.
Okay. So like, if you were a worshiper of a specific god, and then if I don't know. You could voluntarily work for them or being sort of a pawn of theirs.
I really haven't thought that much about it, but I haven't heard any arguments on why not.
Okay.
There could be other interpretations of it, but that would make sense from the view. I haven't thought about it that much, but
it might be connected to, I guess, the deterministic / free will debate that typically goes on. Where
oh boy, that debate, that's a fun one.
Yeah, and it's such a tricky one too, because like there's no real way that you can prove it one way or the other that I can see. I don't know. A lot of the arguments just seem sort of circular to me, but yeah, it's one of those types of debates that always tends to go on.
How's the chat going, by the way? Just to check in.
Let's see. There was someone. Oh wow, there was a lot going on. I was too busy going through my questions. Let me see. Okay. Somebody named Kat said hi to you. We have
awesome.
Don't have a singular book that they go to. So what I guess is the typical response to somebody like when they're like, okay, I have no idea like about paganism. What's a recommended text that you go to? Is it
for which version? I can go. There's a book called General, or it's not called General. It's called like, I'd recommend Deep Ancestors. It's Sereth's book. It's based off Proto-Indo-European religion, which will give you an idea of certain flavors of paganism. It's detailed and complicated, but I think that's a good book. I don't think there's any singular book you can go to. It's not, because there's just so many flavors. If you give me a specific religion, I could probably give you some good books.
Well, but I guess for Gaulish then, like,
okay,
how like
Ancient Fire. It's a good book. It's called Ancient Fire. It's written by Segamaros. It's good, brief. It's not that long. It's 40, 70 pages. Not that long at all. It's fairly spaced out with the text. It's just really an overview. It's really good. Or you can go to his blog where you can find it too. The link I sent you about the ritual has all his stuff on his blog.
All right.
I like his book. I got it. It's good. It's what got me started.
Okay. And then Via the Heathen recommended On the Nature of the Gods by Cicero.
That is a good one.
Is that the Roman Cicero? I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That there's an audiobook on YouTube you can listen to if you don't want to buy it and read it or something, because I like to do stuff while I listen to something.
Yeah, me too. There's a lot of those types of older texts are in the public domain, so like
They're
a lot
good.
of people on like LibriVox.
I love LibriVox.
Yeah, it's so good. All right. Oh, and then One Atheist, One Witch says, "I'm waiting on a world full of gods."
That's a good one. I'd recommend. That's a good one. I'd also recommend The Case for Polytheism if you want to get into, I guess you'd call it apologetics. It's not really evangelical. It's more for defense against people who are, if you don't know how to properly defend it. The Case for Polytheism
against Christians.
No. Yeah, you're gonna try to. Yeah, I'm gonna use it as a sword. And, yeah, it's mostly just.
It's the sword of the spirit. What's it called?
It's called The Case for Polytheism. It's pretty good. I think so.
Steve Dillon.
Yeah, Stephen Dillon. He actually uses a lot of Christian theology in it. Or not theology, Christian philosophy and stuff like that. A lot of those arguments. He uses one of Aquinas' arguments in there.
Oh, really?
What was that person's Twitter handle called, or what was their handle called?
Who?
One Atheist, One
Witch. Maybe it's like a joint account between.
Yeah, it's a joint account between a lady who's a witch and a man who is and her husband who is a atheist, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure that's how it is.
Is there such a thing as an atheist version of a polytheist?
Atheopagan, like that.
Yes. Are there any of those?
Yes, there are lots of. I think
you gotta keep up, Craig. We already went through that.
Oh, you guys already went through that?
Yeah,
we just did.
That,
frustrated atheist is an atheopagan.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Why do you think he's frustrated?
He's a Norse. He likes the Norse stuff.
Okay. All right.
Hoping no one's talking anything mean about me in the chat.
No. They seem.
I'm joking. Oh, awesome! Yay!
All right. What's the other thing?
Oh yeah, and another
What are you
person who
reading,
just
questions?
DM'd me, who's an atheopagan, is Fire Mommy or Alex Saxon, who's in the chat.
So okay, so do you know if like the atheopagans kind of go through some of their the I guess rituals? I don't know because
Since paganism's orthopraxic and not orthodoxic, that's why atheopagans are there, and they will do the rituals. Yes.
okay, so what is the difference there?
Orthodoxics, where you have required belief, like in Christianity, you have to believe in Jesus' resurrection,
Uh-huh.
from most interpretations at least. And then with an orthopraxic, it's more like you have to do this in order to consider yourself a pagan.
Okay.
Or this type, like you have to do a certain ritual or certain rituals or something along those lines.
I see. Because I know like there's some religions that have, I guess, kind of converted over to atheism in some branches. Like I know in Christianity, there's kind of like the Unitarian Church, which is basically like anything goes as a part of like your theology.
Yeah.
I remember one person, like I forgot how they described it. Like, I don't know if you want me to say it online, but I remember one way they described it.
Like none
They
of
called
us
it
are.
as spiritual whores. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I don't. Hopefully, you're okay with me saying that.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
I can say lady at the night
This
if
is
you
Craig's
prefer.
channel, so he's the one that's gonna get all the hate for it. So.
Get all the letters.
Yeah, I get a lot like the letters you wouldn't even believe.
Oh boy, I can't believe people still get letters.
We,
That'd be so crazy. Like for somebody's YouTube channel, you just send a nasty letter to somebody. Like instead of a comment, you just
Have a carrier pigeon take it.
Actually, one of the guys on Twitter, I think he used to be atheist engineer. Now I think he's humanist engineer. Preaches at a Unitarian church on Sunday.
Oh, really?
And when he first told me that, I was like, it blew my mind. But I didn't understand Unitarianism as basically atheist Christianity. It's not even really Christian.
I don't think Unitarianism is atheistic. I don't know, but I thought it was like pluralistic, like theologically pluralistic.
Yeah, I think it's kind of free.
Right, but there's a whole trend line from like.
You mean the humanist churches, or you mean or the atheist churches or something?
I think there's something.
No,
Go ahead,
he's
sorry.
going to a church that ostensibly Christian, but he's an atheist. And there's a couple of people who are on this page. One who's more of a Christian. She's an atheist Christian who I used to bring up all the time. That she's totally down with the ethical teachings of Jesus Christ and wants to embody that in her life, but she doesn't believe he's God. She just thinks he's a good teacher, but she still wants to live according to the Christian scriptures.
So cultural Christian.
Right. I that made sense to me. Except, I wanted to get her on the channel because I thought there was that a lot of atheists would understand her point of view because she's an atheist. She calls herself an atheist. He's an atheist and he preaches at I think Unitarian is the right word. I might be using the wrong word, but I think it's a Unitarian church.
I'm thinking of a humanist church, but might be there is.
But it's not. It's not humanist like
Somebody
if
said universalist.
yes, maybe that's it.
Yeah, there's a distinction.
Maybe.
I forgot what it is, but there is a distinction.
I know.
Somebody
like,
ask him.
Unitarians are,
Humanist
like,
engineer. You can ask him on Twitter. Maybe he doesn't still do it, but it blew my mind that he was. I'm like, what do you mean you're preaching on Sunday? But he's preaching like. I'm not even sure if I doubt it has anything to do with the Bible by the time it's gotten to him. But there's a whole trend line from Ralph Waldo Emerson and the transcendentalists all the way down to like it's sort of Christian, sort of spiritual, but it's more humanist, and there's a whole bunch of in between stuff there. You know what I mean? Anyways, go ahead. What were we talking about?
I don't know. You threw us all off there. I actually.
Well, that's my job. That's my job, John. Keep everyone guessing.
I actually see a buddy of mine that I talk to pretty regularly. Tyler is in the chat. I don't know how he even figured out about this because he doesn't have Twitter, and he probably like follows your channel, Craig. I bet. I talked you up.
He
quite
should. He should. That would be wise of him to do, but who knows?
Okay, so for the god that you have a certain affinity towards? Sicellus?
Siriona.
Oh, okay. Siriana. Okay. Are they like the god of? Like, do they have a specific?
That's give you the I'll give you the list.
Okay.
The moon, the stars, basically the symbols in the sky, things along those lines. You'd associate her with the Celtic astrology. That's a whole other subject I'm still learning about, but that's long. And then also with healing, she and Granus, the sun god, are both associated with healing springs.
Okay. Huh.
Do you debate atheists ever?
Me?
Like on
Yes.
Twitter? I don't know.
Yeah, I've done it a couple times if I feel like it.
Do they come after you with the same type of, like, do you have any evidence for teleolasis or whatever the name you used?
Huh?
I really never. I forgot the name you used.
Granus or
I don't
Siriona
know.
or Sukelos?
Yeah. Do you have any evidence for Sirion? Prove that. Do they do they do that too?
Depends, but there will be some, yes, who will do that.
Do you
I'm not-
do you have a?
I'm not
do you
evangelical
encounter
in
them?
my. Usually the easiest encounter would be I've had an experience. I'm taking it on face value. I'm not trying to convert you. You don't have to care.
Mhm.
They can't really say anything to that.
So is that kind of like you had mentioned that like Ocean kind of gave you I guess apologetics for
Apologetics. Yeah. Mhm.
Is that kind of like what his defense was?
Ocean's converting people. Everybody. Don't tell him I said that. He'll get mad at me.
Is that kind of like what he went into? Like, this is a real experience that a lot of people have, and it's like
I have to find. That's been so long since I've had that first conversation. I have to remember, but I remember watching his videos and stuff where he debate it and talk about taking things at face value and experiences, and just really defining them doesn't make them not happen. And it you have no evidence against it, and however weak it is, any evidence for something still better than no evidence against it. So, at least in my opinion, that's how I'm seeing it right now. And if you have an experience, I'm going to take it at face value until I can be shown otherwise. If there's logical inconsistency, I'll consider
you had your pagan experiences prior to meeting him.
Yes,
so,
this stuff was
so
in like first grade when I was charismatic, so ish.
Right, so they matched up with the stuff that he was talking about.
Well, the stuff from the Gaulish text, but yeah, the stuff you refer to. Or not the Gaulish text, the Gaulish, what we know. Not a text, but what we know. I'll just say that.
Right, and actually that could be considered as tangible evidence. I mean, if you're reading about it, if you have an experience in the woods, let's put it this way, and it's some sort of being, and then you 15 years after the fact read about a specific being that somebody had an identical experience with that being, that's pretty compelling evidence that it's that. I mean, it's not case closed, but a lot of people go, okay.
I mean,
well,
it's
think
my
of it this
experience.
way. This is one of the things I'm bringing up in some of my videos. Like if I have a tingling, when I go to my prayer closet, okay, I disappear for like 2 hours, and I believe I have a real experience if I had a tingly arm experience and I had 50 books in my apartment and I read them because I have 50 books in my apartment that explain the experience that I have, and they said this is what the tingly arm experience is. It's called, the tingly arms thing. I'd be like,
technical.
Right. I'd be like, hey, I know what this is. My wife would be like, what is it? I'd be like, the tingly arm thing. She'd be like, wow. That's probably true. And she'll go, do you have any evidence for that? I'll go, yeah, read these books right here. Tingly arm thing. I think that's what it is. You see what I'm saying? It's evidence. It's not necessarily conclusive. It's not necessarily conclusive evidence of supernatural agency, but it certainly points to something, right? So same idea with you.
Yeah, it's enough for me, and if it isn't enough for other people, my own experience, that's fine. There are people who, Stephen Dillon's actually never had a spiritual experience to my knowledge, but he makes a philosophy based off of that still in his book, The Case for Polytheism, and believes it based off his trusting of the experiences of other people. So that's interesting.
Okay, so that's very interesting, actually. I might actually check that out. It's called The Case for Polytheism.
It does use Christian philosophy like Aquinas and things like that.
Right, and does he match up some of Aquinas's because there's a generalized concept of prime mover God,
the mind, he doesn't really use the prime mover. He uses more or less based off of the universal mind sort of deal, based off of form and matter's existence, and how, since form is a concept, the whole spiel about all that.
Right, but there's also the being in and of itself. I think it's called Esu Spiritus in Thomas Aquinas. I forget exactly the word he used.
I don't remember, but it's something along those lines. But he doesn't use the prime mover because there's some polytheist theologies have some weird stuff in it, so prime mover wouldn't work with all of them. But the contingency and the need for an establishment or a universal mind does work with all of them. And then he goes from there to prove one God exists, and then within that argument to go down to using the argument from experience to prove within his arguments there are multiple ones.
And he actually calls the argument from experience an argument of experience, or is that what you're? I think
that's what it's called. I have to remember. That's what I remember hearing it. Let me check. But
that sounds pretty interesting, actually. Yeah, I'll probably check that out.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Sounds like, I mean, it sounds like there's something that I always think is that there are overlapping concepts in a lot of this stuff that people are kind of ignoring because
definitely,
once you start personifying it, and I've started trying to explain this in my videos, but once you start personifying it, it's easier for a person to lay hold of. It personalizes it for a human being. Like if I say, if you and I have a general concept of a being in and of itself, and I start to specify as Jesus, it's easier for me to identify. Jesus is a friend, sticks closer than a brother. But that also separates, that's where people start arguing over the specifics. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Because that's where the baggage comes from. I'm not doing a good job of explaining it. I'm going to make videos about it. It's really not.
It's probably too big to explain in a sitting, but yeah, I think I get what you're trying to say.
But I think because when you and people who disagree with you, who are polytheists, when you guys get into conflicts, you'll get on conflicts over specifics that need not be introduced if you're just talking about general concepts.
Yeah, right? There's one fight, or not fight, but debate within the Gaulish community, which we're trying to get, is what seasons does the calendar start? That's one argument. It's not theological, but it's still important because the calendar is important to praxis.
Right.
So, do you guys go off of the lunar calendar then?
It's a lunisolar. The Coligny calendar is a lunisolar calendar. I can give you a picture if you want it.
Yeah, sure.
I made it. I like it. You shouldn't take it too literally because I'll explain in a second when I send it. But I made it. And I like I made the Three Worlds picture too.
But your personal version of polytheism is matching up, and you're even trying to purify it so it matches specific polytheist, as far as you're concerned, a purist type polytheist.
I call myself a purist. I'm not scared to incorporate other things that I think are valuable, but I'm not gonna lie either about everything. And you think you put it in your profile and not on the screen?
I did.
Oh, there you go. Now it's on the screen.
Okay.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I'm a purist, and I'm gonna be honest about incorporating other concepts from other faiths or something. Mm-hmm. But so I'll make sure. But when I think they fit, or when I think they at least theologically work, my main argument, or at least thing, is that I can still find the essence within all these fragments, even if they are fragments. I can still find the essence of it, and I can build upon that, and I can build upon what we do know, and that's what's important. I think you agree that's important, being a charismatic Christian, that your practice and how you do things is based off the essence. Like communion is based off of the belief in the sacrifice and the redemptive power and things like that. That's the essence. That's the essence of what it's supposed to communicate. And that's what I'd say.
Right. And how would you define the case for polytheism guy? He's dealing more in a general.
He's very general. He's going just purely polytheism, not any specific faith, just many gods.
See, once you start chiseling it down to specifics, that's where the conflicts tend to come from, because you personalize one aspect of it, it starts to become deeply personal to you, and somebody starts to negate that one thing that's personal to you.
It doesn't always negate it, because you can generally have a pluralistic outlook on things with a lot of things that some experiences don't generally negate each other. Like, I completely accept that you have had spiritual experiences. I'm not going to deny that. I would never.
Right.
There are other concepts that you
hear
hold
that,
to.
John? He's not going to deny it. Thank you. Thank you. Finally, we get a guest who's not persecuting me. Finally. Free to be me on my own channel for once.
Every single atheist that Craig gets on just always asks him for, what's his evidence? What do you got?
Yeah, what's the evidence? Evidence. And I go, Kalam, and then we waste the next 10 hours. Kalam, no, it doesn't work. Yes, it does. Blah. 10 hours go by.
There we go. Let's do that. No, I'm joking. But
no, okay. So you would never deny that I'm having some sort of spiritual experience, but you would probably
deny the
define
specifics. But
right, exactly.
You know what I mean? I would not deny 100%. That you had that experience. I definitely believe I would trust your word. There's some people who I will, like, there's some people who say they're married to Loki, which I think is crazy, but I'm still not going to deny their experiences, but I will not agree to all that.
Well, it's easy. You go provide evidence, and they go, no, I don't have. Here's a picture in the wallet of me and Loki, and it's like,
Okay, but I don't want to be mean to this person. No, I don't not want to be mean to the person, but I'm just giving an example.
Oh, okay, it's an actual person.
Yeah, I'm not going to say who. I'm
shit.
Him up.
I won't either.
It's actually shit. No, I'm joking. I wonder what the chat's going now. Oh well, but that's the calendar, by the way, if you wanted to know.
Yeah. Okay. So I was curious because I know for certain lunar calendars you have to have like a 13th month, but on this one there's just the 12.
Oh, that's fun. That's a fun explanation. Okay, basically it's a 5-year cycle. You go. You add one extra month before it starts. In the middle of the 5-year cycle, you add another one, and then the end because it's the beginning of the next one. You add it, and so that's how you keep it on track with the sun.
I gotcha. Okay, so you have like a 13. Do you just like reuse one of these 12 then, or do you?
I have to remember. I haven't looked at this in a while. I was doing calendar studies a while ago, but I kind of quit getting more into theology for a bit, taking a break from that. I think they have different names, but they might be the same one repeated. But
now let me ask you another question that's specific to my own type of stuff that I talk about. I'm putting forth the idea that there are universal spiritual intuitions. Like, for example, Christianity stresses humility, so does Buddhism, so does Tao Te Ching, so does. Are there virtues or are there type of things stressed in your faith?
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll give you the basic, the easiest
like what
thing.
Type? Yeah.
There's Dema, which is the Gaulish word, and there's Dedma, which is the Proto-Celtic word. Basically, the best analogy, I think is a really good analogy, would be the Dharma in the Hindu faith.
The Dharmic principles, right?
It's very close to Dharmic principles. So that'd be the universal moral compass, pretty much.
And there's right actions in right virtues, right types of principles. It gets
complicated, but yes.
Okay. And do they match? They match up the closest with the Dharmic principles in Hinduism and anything else?
The concept overall, I'd say, but not all the principles are going to perfectly match. But I'd say it's the best analogy I have.
Okay, got it. And where would you place John in, like, if you were trying to analyze his polytheistic walk? Would you go
John?
Well, he's not. Yeah.
I'm confused now, but there's no scaling. But okay.
There's no scale. Like, what are some of the virtues they stress? Do they stress like humility? Or
I'll give you some of the virtues would be things like honor and not desecrating someone else's honor. Something like slander would be a very big sin, or not sin. I'm not going to use the word sin, but evil. I don't like using the word sin; it gives off the wrong connotation. But evil, I'd say, is a slander because it desecrates someone's honor. Something like, because I know Gaul was a very big honor culture. All the Celtic cultures were big on honor. You're supposed to have your own personal honor. You're supposed to maintain that. And people slandering you or things like that is a big no-no.
Interesting. Okay.
So is it like then if you like were to dishonor, like if I said something bad about Craig's mama or something like that,
Oh man, there'd be trouble. Oh, would there be trouble?
Oh,
Oh
boy.
wow. Oh
Would,
wow.
It depends
Pop, pop to the dome.
Like if you're just making a joke, it's not going to be a big deal. But if you like said it to a community in order to like say she's running for like city council or something, and you say it to the community that she kicks puppies, and she doesn't.
Right.
But now that she's permanently branded with that, and it's still going to be in people's mind, even if they realize it's a fake thing, honor gotten back. It's an old proverb. I'm probably going to missay it, but honor that has to be restored will never be the same as it was before.
Yeah, that's actually a really good principle in politics, because that's part of why people will put negative information out there, even though they know it isn't necessarily true, is that it forever tarnishes somebody,
Brands you
a little.
Like that story about Richard Gere and the hamster. Or was it a gerbil or something?
what? Hamster, what?
Never mind.
Let me give you a weird
I thought
example.
that was Rod Stewart.
Let me give you a weird sorry, what are you saying?
Weird example. Go for it.
Here's a weird example of slander. It's not technically, but I'm gonna have fun with this. It's probably more like libel, but I'm gonna have fun with this. This is a weird example of slander. I'm gonna use that Disney did against, what are they called? Lemmings. You know how Disney showed the lemmings jumping off the cliff and being suicidal? Well, they're not. It's a lie. It's a slander. But now gerbils are branded with that connotation. There you go. Slander. That's a silly example, I know, but I think it gets across the essence.
I think it gets right to the point. And I knew it.
Everywhere.
Disney slandered. What are they called?
You hear that?
Lemmings.
Disney lies, kids.
I'm on to you, Disney.
Lies. Disney lies. We've known that for some time on this channel. That's why we have no corporate sponsorship with Disney. We cut off ties because they lie.
Yeah, that's why. That's definitely why.
Yeah, that's definitely why. What? Would you think there's other reasons why? I'm pretty sure that's why. Pretty sure. We won't take their money.
Account and you'll know why. I'm just being mean. I'm just being mean.
Oh, wow. Yeah, did you hear that, people? Subscribe.
Yeah, I'm gonna start calling out people. No, I'm kidding. I won't do that. But
yeah. Oh yeah, somebody in the chat brought up the movie Brave. Is that I don't know, what are your opinions on that?
I use that as a theological basis for no, I'm joking. No, but
that's where a lot of your studies go into, like frame by frame analysis.
Brave. Just rewatching that, I also it's like watching Vikings to get your Norse theology.
Okay. Gotcha.
But
what is it? Brave? What's Braveheart?
It's a Disney movie.
Did you mean Braveheart,
Brave.
John?
Do you mean the Disney Brave? I thought like with the redhead girl and the bear mom.
Yeah,
it's this Disney movie where the girl's mom gets turned into a bear, and I don't know. I had a lot of like
Celtic stuff.
Oh, okay, Celtic spirit.
Or Gaelic. Yeah, it was Gaelic. It's Scottish Gaelic.
Gaelic influences.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was based in Scotland, so ancient Scotland. So yeah.
Are some of the classic fairy tales derived from Gaelic or no? From these influences?
It depends on which ones you're talking about. I have a few opinions which aren't academically verified, but on certain tales and what I think. But a lot of the tales, like the Book of Invasions, are definitely from Irish mythology, is definitely about the Gaelic gods. Okay. They actually say it in the text too. Like we'll talk about a lot of them as that too in the text. The monks who wrote it down.
Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned a little bit earlier that like some of these post-Christian texts like had like a lot of, I guess, influence on them. I know I've heard of that before. Like there was some like I guess recreations of certain myths that were like supposedly I guess Christians put like certain symbolism into it, like something to do with like Odin and the cross, or maybe I'm thinking
there's some people who say that the cross is a sun symbol, and that's why Jesus is the sun god. I don't think that's verified in any way. I don't know about that. I know that the Celtic cross is a fusion between the sun cross, the pagan sun cross, and the cross, but I don't think that Jesus was from a pagan sun god because of the cross.
The cross with the loop at the top of it.
No, that's not a cross at all. That's what is that? That's a chematic symbol. It's some kind of tool. I forgot what they do with it or the name. That's different. The Celtic cross is the cross with a circle in it. You just type in Celtic cross and you'll see it.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
That's what some people say.
Yeah.
Not even going to delve into that. But
Well, yeah, because I know there's like some confusion that occurs like sometimes with the mythicists that they go on about. Like, there's a lot of these pagan gods that
that's
share
fake.
these
That's
similarities.
all fake.
Yeah,
All
but it
okay.
seems
Don't
like
trust that. That is
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
You're
I
hearing
know,
it from a
but
pagan
it
right here.
seems like usually the I guess the responses to that is usually that, like, for some of these things, like I'm pretty sure like Dionysius, that Christian symbolism was put into the things after like the reign of Christianity in order to make these pagan things more, I guess, Christian in some way.
I believe that they did do that. That's that.
So is that
I do. I
They
like,
definitely
let
did.
me finish. Huh?
Yeah. Sorry.
I was going to say, I believe that Christians did make analogies to paganism in order to convert, because I think there's records of that. I know that Saint Patrick made an analogy towards the Trinity with the shamrock, and I know that the number 3 is very important in Celtic paganism. Like, it represents the 3 worlds, different triads of gods, things like that. So I definitely know that definitely happened, but I don't think it stems directly from another pagan story. I don't think that's backed up. So you're hearing it from a pagan here. I don't think that's the case.
Right.
Well, a lot of that stuff is agenda driven.
Definitely.
You get some of that even in like the books of the New Testament. Like, there's an element of Paul pointing out the unseen God of the Romans, or I think, I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah,
Craig,
I think it was Romans. It was the Greek. What was it? Or not Greek? And he also makes analogy towards Greek philosophy and and like the cave and stuff like that. Yeah,
with like the book of John that points out, like, trying to draw the connection between the Greek idea of the Logos and the Hebraic Messiah.
Yeah, they're definitely analogies. I just don't think it's directly comes from that. I don't think that's the case.
Well, is that was my, I guess, question that I was getting into, is like, when you're looking through some of these kind of Celtic texts or whatever you're looking into,
a lot
trying
of
to
it's
get a better background on. Is there some of these things that, okay, so you can like spot like right out, okay,
it's really
this is
easy.
a Christian influence.
Well, most of the Christian influences are kind of like popped in there afterwards. Some of them are subtle, but a lot of them are kind of like just like at the side of it, kind of, you know what I mean? Like at the end of a sentence. Like
a dying and rising God, or resurrection, or
I wouldn't say that's Christian influence, but maybe, but I don't think that, because there's like dying and rising gods in all things. Jesus is a bit unique, I'll admit, that when it comes to that. So but that's another thing. Let's see, I was gonna say, but when I go through them, it's generally on the nose that you can find it, and there's lots of people who've already studied this in depth heavily to figure it out too, who have written about it, so it's not like I'm working alone.
Right. So in the overall trend, though, like when Christians came into like a certain area, depending on where it was, and tell me, this is just my guess. I don't know for a fact this is right, but so they would try to convert the whole pagan group, and it's probably there'd be a whole bunch of different versions of. Some of the pagans converted completely to Christianity. Some of them adopted some forms of paganism that they mixed with Christianity, and some stayed pagans. And then there's all traditions that grew up from that. Is that fair to say?
That's definitely fair to say, I'd say. There's been Christo-pagans, tons of records of people worshiping people like Thor and
Jesus.
Jesus at the same time.
And they're mixing some version of, they're doing their own personal idiosyncratic mixture of the two.
Yeah, and there's Christo-pagans today.
Like they'll call on Jesus if they want to turn the other cheek, and then they'll call on Thor if they want to really kick someone's.
Maybe I know that he was mostly viewed as a salvation deity. I don't mean to be rude when I say this, but it's probably more like fire insurance. If you want me to be honest, that's how I think they viewed it, but I'm not sure. I don't mean to be rude when I say that.
No, it's fine with me.
Okay. It's probably some of the main views, but I'm not sure. But that's just
there's probably
social pressure
in some. Yeah, I'm sure there was social pressure, and then there was also, convince people who they did apologetics. They said kalam, and the guy's like, "Hey, that makes a lot of sense."
They just said the word kalam, and there you go.
They said, "Feel him in your heart, Jesus," and like, "Oh, okay, I think I'm Christian now." And then
kalam, you just got to say kalam, and there you go, instant.
We gotta
usually works.
write that down, Craig.
Well, it works, John. People I do it like every day on Twitter, John. People like, "You got any evidence?" Like kalam. Like, oh
just
wow,
hold up a cross and yell kalam and throw it at him, and there you go, instant.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting. Then, do you think is that going on today somewhat that you know of? Like, yeah.
There are tons.
Yeah, you mentioned there's like druids that are Christians.
That's not Christo-pagan. I mean, when I say Christo-pagan, I mean you could say pagan practices, but if you want me to be completely blunt with you, all Christians engage in pagan practices. Unless you're like, not even Jehovah's Witnesses do it. Like, even Jehovah's Witnesses, when they get married and do the ring ceremony, that's an Egyptian practice. So there you go. But if you mean like, when I say Christo-pagan, I mean somebody who worships Jesus and Thor at the same time or something like that.
Right. You mean specifically mixing the two faiths. Like, well, that's kind of why I brought up Yates, is Yates was technically a Christian and probably raised as maybe a Catholic, but then he started getting really into esoteric, like, I forget the specific thing. It's probably different than what you're involved in. Swedenborgianism, I think it's called.
I don't know what that is, but I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it's like Jungianism for the time, I think.
You can make the argument, this is probably going to irritate a lot of people, but you can make the argument that C.S. Lewis was pseudo-Christo-pagan. I remember he prayed to Apollo a few times.
Is Stephanie in this? It's going to irritate Stephanie.
I know C.S. Lewis.
Stephanie, get him.
C.S. Lewis prayed to Apollo once or something, or maybe he was tempted to. I don't remember, but you could make that argument. I don't know if it's a good one, but you could make it. It's not going to irritate a few people. I've heard
from some Christians that they've had like some pagan influences, like trying to tempt them or something like that, and been kind of a bit of a, I don't know, struggle, but at least something that has been worrisome for them. But I don't know.
But if you throw a coin in a wishing well, you're engaging in pagan practices. So there you go.
Right. Well, there's probably a lot of, that's what I was trying to get at. There's probably a lot of things that we haven't. It's just like with Shakespeare. When you actually go back and you read Shakespeare, you're like, oh, wait a minute, I didn't know that came from Shakespeare. You know, there's so many phrases.
The word eyeball.
Right, and so many common expressions that are sourced back to his plays that you had no idea until you read the play. So I'm sure there's a. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm fine with people doing it. I don't care. I'm not going to judge you because of it, and I don't think people should, but I'm just telling you how it is. That's just all I'm doing. I'm not. Like, when I argued about Easter being pagan, I wasn't saying Christians can't celebrate Easter. I was just saying that there's evidence for
like cultural appropriation.
I'm not going to say that.
That's why I'm asking you the questions, because you're not doing it from an agenda. You're just doing it from a pure point of, is this scholarship and is this correct? Not from, I want this to be correct because then it'll prove that Jesus isn't really God, blah, blah, blah.
I don't care about doing that. I care about getting to know my spirituality and getting the roots and things like that. I care about the truth, and I believe this is the truth, and that's why I'm following it.
Right. Totally.
I don't care about an agenda or just making me feel better. I guess I care about feeling when it comes to feeling content in the truth, but you know what I mean.
Right. I got you. John, any other questions?
All right, cool. The chat has been like super active. Like, even though we've had like less than 10 people watching this whole time, it has been like super active, talking with each other and stuff like that.
What are they saying?
I can't even keep
saying
up.
Negative things about me? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, well, bad mouthing Craig's mom quite a bit. Like, I don't know.
Whoa.
I'm sorry, Craig. I don't know what I started.
Banhammer.
Yeah, a lot of these people, I'm just gonna have to, which is really
ban Cirrus.
Subscriber count.
Ban Cirrus? Should I ban Cirrus? That'd be cool. That'd be useful.
Fun fact: Cirrus in Gaulish is actually a word for cheese. I just wanted to everyone knows
obviously. That makes so much sense to me. I can't even tell you.
Cirrus
that honestly
is the
makes
Gaulish
so
word
much
for
sense.
cheese. So make sure to tell that to Cirrus. Everyone, like, DM Cirrus or something. Everyone, every person on Earth, just bug him about that constantly.
So then, your name then does that have like a meaning
It's
behind it
Gaulish.
as well?
Yeah, it means a band of warriors.
Does it mean
cool.
like butter? Oh, okay. Okay, that's cool.
The Ocean gave it to me. It comes from the name Vincent Getterix, if you know who he is. He's a famous Gaulish
Yes.
figure. The most famous
Yeah.
one I could think of. The national hero of France.
Yeah, he
it
was
comes from his name.
the leader of the Gallic ancient Gauls.
No, he
I guess
united the
versus Julius
tribes.
Caesar.
Yeah, he united the tribes against Caesar.
Yeah.
Wow. Cool. Yeah, that's fun.
That was actually my
Have it-
first exposure to Gallic was Asterix books. I don't know if you've even heard of
You
them.
mean
They were
the
like-
kids' books or the comics?
Yeah, they were from
Great
yes,
books. I love
exactly.
those.
Yeah,
I need
I
to
loved
buy
them
one
when
of
I
the
was a
little
kid.
stuffed animal or stuffed people things of those. They're actually on Etsy. I found them.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I think I had
with
every
shirts
single
too.
one of them.
Really?
When I
No,
was
I'm
a
talking about
kid,
like the
yeah.
stuffed animal. Like they had the
Oh
shirts
no,
too.
I had
A gym shirt
No.
for Asterix and things like that. I just thought they're funny. I found them on Etsy and stuff. That's a good old French comic book. I'm glad they're in English
Yeah.
too.
yeah, they're really popular in France.
They're like the not really Rocky and Bullwinkle anymore. Probably more like the Looney Tunes of France, I'd say, right?
Yeah, totally.
Why did I say Rocky? I love Rocky and Bullwinkle. I miss that. Oh well.
Rocky and Bullwinkle was good.
I
That
love
was classic.
yeah. Why am I thinking of that?
I remember watching the I guess animated movie or live action movie when I was younger, but a lot of these things are just before my time. I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the stuff in your
Craig's
time
always
is all
thrown
like
out.
The Rocky
There's a
and
lot
Bullwinkle
of
live
stuff
action
that-
was good. Huh?
yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's like before John's time. I mean that things that you think are common knowledge, but they're just not anymore. Like
Yeah,
You
like
know.
Rocky and Bullwinkle.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's sad, and John's into all this newfangled stuff like My
Yeah,
Little
John.
Pony. And
Oh,
who
whoa,
knows?
John. No, I'm kidding. Okay.
Who even knows what he's down? He's like, Craig, you don't understand. It's really cool. It's,
Yeah. He's into Fortnite, I guess.
yeah, probably.
yeah,
He's probably
Fortnite.
obsessed. He's probably obsessed with Warcraft and things like that.
Call of Duty.
Do you game, John? Do you even
I
game?
haven't gamed it. I used to be big into Minecraft. That's like what I was first doing on the internet for quite a while, and then I fell out of it, and then started playing a little bit recently again because it's become popular. But I don't game too often, really. Just single.
Serious
player PC
games, right?
Really.
Do you do you game?
Serious games. Me?
Yes.
Not really. No,
Yeah.
I'm not a gamer. Nah.
Do you play
No, I don't
Dungeons
have-
and Dragons?
Nah. I've
Okay.
heard of
You'd
it.
probably
but
be better at it than most of them because you have some like
You know all the spells.
Just- yeah, you know all the spells. You could become
Yeah,
like
I
you could become
memorized
a
all the
wizard
spells.
and like
Yeah. I memorized all the spells.
you could actually
Definitely.
perform them in real life while these guys are playing in
Cause
the
the
game. And
table
you
to
could,
flip. No, but
yeah, exactly. These guys, the atheists are always talking about. You can tell they're terrible at it, so you should probably play and kill them. Probably be great at it.
make them do it historically accurately.
Yeah, exactly. I played it once or twice when I was in like 7th grade.
Up,
Three
your
or four
character
times.
got dysentery. Up, your character got cholera. Now got to make a new one. No, the birth rates aren't that good.
Is there
Now,
like
John,
Yeah.
Game of Thrones, you don't watch? This
yeah.
is just unrelated. Why not? You don't have HBO, or you just
Okay.
not in the loop?
Yeah, partially not in the loop. Also not. I don't know. It's one of those shows that everybody else is watching, so I'm too much of a hipster, I guess, to really bother with it.
You're like, if everybody's into it, it can't be cool, and you're gonna find
Exactly.
like the
You'll be a
new
hipster.
obscure thing, the new obscure like this anime from Japan is so awesome, and like you two guys are gonna be like, oh, it's the coolest thing ever.
No, anime's too mainstream too. I gotta like.
What about you? What about you?
But
What about our guest? Were you a Game of Thrones fan
how
at
do you
all?
pronounce
I've never
Yeah.
watched it.
Oh, really?
No,
Wow, interesting.
I don't know. I don't watch too much TV. I prefer YouTube. We don't even have TV at the house, so I could find it pirated online like a normal person. But
Oh wow, we have like endless stream. We have like practically everything. I swear to God, I have more movies than I can watch in like 10 years, like
gosh,
queued up.
we have a ton of
But
old movies in the basement. It's pretty neat. I like the older movies. What was it? On the Run? That's a good old. It's on VCR. It's a good one.
older movies are great. Yeah, older movies are great. John won't watch them on general principle.
Hipsters. Wait, wouldn't a hipster like old movies because they're like
Yeah,
that was
I don't
the
know what
wrong
he's talking about.
generation. Born in the
My
wrong
parents are-
generation, man.
my parents were boomers, so I was raised on a lot of older stuff, like Marx Brothers. That was my jam.
What was the
Oh,
other
Marx
one?
Brothers are great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, have you seen Smoking the Bandit? That's a good one.
Oh yeah, that's from like that's like
I
Burt
like that.
Reynolds in the 70s.
I like that. That's a good movie. I thought it was. I really like that movie.
It's fun.
It's cool because like I just thought it was creative how they had the guy get past the speed traps with the Why am I talking about this? I don't even. It just popped it. Smoking the Bandit.
Just how things roll on my channel. You bring up things from left field, and people go, "Oh yeah, well, interesting point about left field." There's this time when I was like, "There's this interesting thing that." Yeah, it's fun. It's
like
good.
this.
You should bring some of your crew around, and we'll have more polytheist education night or something
All
like
right,
that.
convert all your audience. No, I'm kidding, but
Are they biting, John? Is anyone in the audience like lining up to like receive thorax or I don't even know what the gods? I can't. I don't know what the names of the gods are.
Thorax. You're gonna receive what? Yeah,
Anybody want to
the
receive Thoron and follow him from this point?
The
Should we do an altar call for your deities? Do you want to do an altar call, dude?
Oh right, that's gonna take the 2,000 of them. Have fun.
Oh well, so what will we do? Anybody interested in joining up with his crew?
Yeah,
He's polytheist. How many people are on your channel?
forgot.
Rotating like 4 people or something.
Oh, how many people are on the crew? It is 5. But
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we got a lot of looks like polytheists in the chat, so a lot of them probably have already like accepted.
They've already taken
Lero
the
into
polytheist
their heart.
experience and they're now
Lear?
Lero, obscure Celtic god invoked alongside the goddess Lyrina.
Let me check
is the
that
eponymous spirit of Lyra.
Okay, did you just go on Google or Wikipedia?
He's like John's like dropping gods you don't even know.
Yeah, because I don't go to the obscure list where.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just looked up Gaelish or Gaulish gods in Wikipedia, and then it just gave me a whole list
Have
of
fun with them.
66 of them. Yeah.
There's not
Yeah, I was
66.
surprised.
There's probably more than 6. I thought there was more. Huh? Or maybe I'm thinking of all of them together. Never mind. I'm thinking of all of them together. Never mind. I'm thinking of like all of the Celtic ones.
Tilo, the eponymous spirit of Toulon.
I'm just gonna read those off.
Yes.
Grab a random one.
Yeah. I'm quizzing you right now. You gotta.
Yeah, I
trying to make
memorized
sure
166.
that you really
Yeah,
know your stuff. Okay, who is Glanus?
Huh? I didn't hear what you said. What?
So-
Who is?
Associated with the healing spring at the town
Who
of
is Granus?
Glanus.
I don't know.
A
If you
Gaulish god
pronounce-
associated. Glanus with an L. Associated with a healing
Janus?
spring. I think you're
probably
a
is
fake
a variation of the name
Sorry.
Granus, but I'm not sure about that. I'll check that out.
No. Okay.
Sounds
That's
like
all right.
that, but I'll check
Yeah,
it
it seems
out.
like there's a lot. There's
It's
a
a
lot
long
of them.
Wikipedia list. I deal with the main pantheon,
Yeah,
so.
Oh, okay. Don't have time for all these obscure ones.
Okay, yeah, yeah, judging.
Sorry.
No, I'm kidding, but
Oh my gosh.
what?
Is the
Oh, we've been
never
doing this
mind.
for 2
So
hours.
Just
Yeah,
oh,
Cool.
yeah.
that's what happens on our channel. Time
It goes about 5
Time just-
hours. Is the chat doing okay?
We
Any
could.
questions?
Looks okay. We got Beej in the chat saying he's denying your gods over here. Do you want to do something
Mhm.
about that?
Ban hair? No, I'm kidding. I don't even know what he's saying, but
Oh, he's saying
Okay.
he's into Ishtar, so that's
Oh.
in
Okay.
Ishtar school. So okay, so Alex Saxon said to talk about bugs.
No. Don't bring this up with new people, Alex.
Oh no.
I
Yeah,
just
I
made
say
some
no.
new friends. I don't want to lose
Alienate
them
us.
right now.
Talk about something
Nope.
really weird.
No,
Alienate us.
I'm not
Go
talking
for it.
about bugs. No,
You're very
you're gonna get demonetized, so I'm not.
just gonna creep us all out with your bug talk.
I know too much about bugs. I'll just tell you that.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Any other questions that aren't trying to
Aren't bug
destroy my
related.
reputation? Huh?
Things that aren't bug related. Let's see.
How many of them are there?
A lot of them. Oh, most of
Oh
these.
my
actually.
gosh!
No, it's all from Alex though, so I think he's just trying to get you into trouble.
That's a she.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
That's fine.
They're saying we should join Ocean's server. You
Oh,
want to
you
plug
should.
that?
It's on. Yeah, I'll plug it real quick. I'll send you one, and then you can send it to the other dude
Oh,
through Twitter.
yeah, John, you want to start a channel, our channel Discord? You want to do that?
Plug that. I'll join if you want. Not sure how active I'll be, but I'll join.
There's I'm not big into Discord just yet. There's a lot to it, and I don't like all these new social medias that are popping
Newfangled.
up. I want to wait until they've actually gotten enough clout before I know that they're not just going to fall apart again.
This Discord's doing fine though.
Oh yeah, that's
It's been around for like several years so far.
What's the name of the Discord?
It's called Ocean's Hold. Let me find.
Actually, I think I am already.
Oh.
On
Oh, then never mind.
I can get the link myself.
Okay, cool.
That's the thing. I'm hardly on Discord anyway, but it's pretty handy, especially for like gaming and stuff like that. It seems like it's pretty good.
I like the voice chat option. It's fun.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Ocean's Hold. All right. How do I create an invitation for it?
You have to click something on it. Somewhere.
Yep, I found it, and I will share it in the chat. And I don't know. I can put it in the description too as well because.
Okay. Perfect.
I don't know if Craig's gonna be wanting me to do any sort of polytheistic promotion on his Christian channel here.
Your choice. I'm not gonna.
What's that?
If you want to plug Ocean for it.
Okay.
You can post the Discord link in the chat. That's fine.
You might get disbanded or something. I don't know.
Disbanded from what?
It might expire. The links will expire after a while.
Okay.
But it's fine.
At least everybody. That's the thing. I think a lot of the people in the chat are actually coming through.
They are.
You. So
they're coming through Ocean's Hold. So.
Yeah. So like, hey, all of you guys that are already connected to that Discord, go join it and go follow up the conversation over there.
Yeah, it's totally fine though. All right. So, is there any final thoughts? Any final questions? John, are you all questioned out?
Yeah.
Inquisitor,
that's all I've got. I mean, you've been great at this. Like,
this has been great.
Yeah, this has been a lot of fun.
I've enjoyed it.
Cool. Yeah, this has been fun.
Hopefully,
any final thoughts you want to leave us with? Any parting words of wisdom for anybody in the chat? If you're interested in polytheism, we've got links to Ocean's Discord.
Mm-hmm.
But be careful. He's smooth and he's convincing, that Ocean. So heed his words. Be careful when he talks to you. He'll pull that Celtic charm, and next thing you know, you'll be like,
Ocean's Norse. No.
Okay. That's how he gets you.
That's how he gets it.
Okay, somebody is asking you to talk about whales now.
Nope. If it has an animal mentioned in the comment, don't bring it up.
I'm banning all of these people.
No, don't ban them. I'm kidding. But yeah. I'm not.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Some sort of inside joke going on between.
Yeah, it's an inside joke that I'm not going to say because you'll get your entire channel just burned to the ground if I do.
Wow, burned to the ground.
Sounds like a threat.
It's not a threat. It's a promise. Nobody.
All right. Cool. All right. Yeah. Thanks so much. Okay. So if you guys want to follow Cingeto. That's how it's pronounced?
Yeah.
Okay. Cingeto of Belgae. That is CINGETOOFBELGAE on Twitter. Is that where you're
Yeah, that's
mostly?
where I'm active there and on Discord mostly.
And also in Discord, which is also
I'm barely active on Facebook, so.
Yeah, that's only where like old people like Craig hang out anymore.
What, Facebook?
Yeah.
Non-hipster.
Facebook is the best.
I'm trying to figure out how to do it. So.
Yeah, I can just imagine like Craig trying to figure out how to send a photo to somebody on Facebook and just messing things up. Accidentally deleting his account.
Facebook is great. Facebook is totally cool. Facebook is where it's at, right?
All right,
Oh,
Boomer. All right, it's your bedtime. Yes.
Man, you're so cruel. It's only 7 for you guys because you're CST.
Yeah, that's when
he's CST. I'm California. I'm real time. He's
boy,
middle
so
of the country.
You really should get to bed. It's like 5. It's way past. No, I'm kidding, but I'm just being mean too.
I don't think Craig gets any of these jokes anyway, so it's a little bit hard of hearing as well and all that. So.
You're so mean.
All right, Craig, you want to sign us out, or did you just rage quit?
No. You can. You're the one who's got. You put this into effect, so you can take us out.
Okay. We want to talk politics before signing off.
Huh?
I noticed on your Twitter you've done a little bit of retweeting of Andrew Yang. Are you part of the Yang gang?
No, I don't want to talk about politics though. But if I agree with people, I will retweet them. If I'm not gonna affiliate myself.
Tweet you do is an endorsement of the person that you retweeted, right?
Yeah. Okay, let's not discuss politics, please.
All right. Yeah, that's fine. All right. Yeah. Well, that's good. All right.
I retweeted him once because I liked what he had to say. That's about it.
Yeah. That's the thing.
Okay.
All politicians, you got to be careful.
To be honest, I don't trust any politician.
Smart.
So
smart.
I know that they're sly. I know that they're sly of word. I don't trust any politician. I don't think any of them are gonna. I don't think it's. Just, I don't want to talk about politics.
Yeah.
But
Don't worry about it.
don't bring up politics.
Sorry. All right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everybody for watching. This has been Craig and John and Cingeto. So smash that like button, smash subscribe, and hit the bell notification. And
share with your friends. Say, here's a discussion about polytheism. Watch this.
Yeah, watch this polytheist just totally demolish these two Christians.
I thought we demolished him. You thought he demolished. I thought we fucking barbecued him. We had him totally against the ropes half the time. I thought we barbecued him, John.
Send it to all your friends and have them figure out which one it was. We need all the help we can figure out.
Take a poll. Who won this debate? Who won this?
All right. Yeah, this debate, that was, we really debated a lot, didn't we?
I think we technically won since we did mention Kalam. So
he said Kalam. There you go.
It's like an automatic win.
Instantaneously. I have to admit, if you say the word Kalam, you just win any debate with me. It doesn't even matter what's on. It's just if you say Kalam, I'm just down. I'm gonna go into like a serious debate, and the person will be like Kalam.
That's it. We can't go any further. We've already won. All right. All right. Yep. All right. Signing off. Bye, everybody.